Love you, Mom.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 2 of Stormie Stories. I'm so glad if you're back listening, and if it's your first time, welcome. My first episode, I really just gave quick insights to my life, and now we're just going to make that progression that is my hope and my plan for this artistic body. By no means is it my magnum opus, but I think to pour one's heart out in an effective, genuine way is helpful not only to the soul bearing all things, but to anyone listening with an open heart. I really wanted to talk about motherhood today because it's at the core of my being. I'm a mom of 5 kids. I had talked about in the first episode that I became a mom at 16 years old. And before I finished undergrad, I had my first son, my second child, and I started my early 20s, with 2 children, and I became a single mom at that time. You know, I was thinking about it the other day, and a friend had moved out from living with a long term roommate. And she's like, I'm going to be so lonely, and what am I going to do? And at any rate, I just thought about it. I said, I've never lived alone in my life. This life, this time that I've had on the planet, I've never been alone. I had 6 brothers and sisters, my parents, cousins, neighbors, friends, people I went to church with, and then my own children, and then my teammates and my college mates. I have never ever experienced what it means to be truly alone. I've always had a home that was filled with noise and responsibility and diapers and things, and those were the consequences of my decisions. But I sometimes watch TV and go, as I'm watching a character in their high powered career focus on their goals and their hopes and their dreams, and I realize my life was really more shaped by what was needed of me and what I could flow around the choices I had already made, meaning motherhood. Later in life, in my 30s, I had 3 more children. So I have a total of 5. I have this very unique combination of children where I have 2 adult children essentially and 3 children that are preteens. So even as I enter this beautiful, complex, new chapter of my life called my 40s, where I still feel young, I still apparently look young, but I also feel old and tired sometimes. I have adults in my life that I still support, love, and do all I can to mother and nurture them, but I'm also a very normal mom in the sense that I'm taking preteens to Valentine's Day dances and seeing them evolve into having a fashion sense for the first time or independent views outside of what I've taught them. But I just kind of go back to myself. I check in with myself. And that is kind of the island this episode really is focusing on. That sometimes I go, what have you accomplished ever, Veronica, except for being a mother? It didn't matter what my children needed. It didn't matter who they wanted to be. I have given all support and love and every resource I had, whether it was extraordinary ability or by a thread, exhausting everything I had for the smallest effort. I've given it to my children. I really modeled my childhood, my parenting actually, against my childhood. And as much as I adored and I love and I revere my dearly departed parents, I focused how I wanted to be a mom on who I needed as a mom. My mom was, a lot of times, if I can be honest, she was cold and she was distant. She was busy. She was overwhelmed. She didn't seem as I grew and look back with more mature eyes, she never seemed to be present. And this isn't to, I think, hold her to a score. It's more to accept that when I became a mother, very, very young, again at 16 years old, even at 16 years old, I was driven, wildly driven, to give my daughter a very present parent, a parent that every breath, everything I saw, like everything the light touched, was about my daughter and how she could be happier, how she could be more comfortable, and how I could make sure she understood how much I loved her and I would protect her, and that everything she needed was not hopeful but would be a reality. And we all fall short. And I definitely, you know, again, many explorations would have to go into that as such a young mother. I look back at our time growing up together in undergrad and her time in elementary school and middle school, my oldest daughter, my only daughter. And I can truly say she's my best friend now. And although the journey may have been unfair to her, because I wasn't financially stable, I wasn't of what many say was the correct age, I poured something in me into motherhood that no one poured into me. And when I became a mother, again, in my early 30s, but this time with all of these resources and what society says you need, a wedding ring and a stable home, and I look back and I go, really at no point did I ever have the time to enjoy it. I lived in a frantic state of like what now is so trendy, like, these trad wives, this level of cultivation and perfection and appearance. When my sons were 2 weeks old, I was focused on having my makeup perfectly done, my hair perfectly done, my home perfectly clean, my tummy flat, the perfect outfit, back out and about in heels with the matching outfit with my children, and everyone appearing to be perfect. Home cooked meals, but successful at my office and my career, making sure that my partner felt I was doing enough, as if I needed his validation, as well as concerning myself with things that I look back now and go, I robbed myself, and I was robbed of this tender feminine energy I think that it should envelop motherhood. Yes, I have all my baby's first footsteps on video, and I changed their diapers, and I cooked for them, and I cuddled them, and I kissed them, and I can remember how they smell and what they sounded like when they would coo in the middle of the night. But I lost a sacred feminine energy, more concerned with the panic of the aesthetic, more concerned with what my partner's needs were. And when that, several years later, my relationships started to collapse, it's taken now the better part of a decade for me to go back and go, my God, I was there cooking and cleaning and baking and wrapping gifts perfectly and making sure all of the beds were perfectly made and the pillows matched and the socks were perfect and the shoes were squeaky clean. But as much as the children were being given the childhood I always prayed for, I was just empty. And I struggled to remember most of it. I was just a soldier in the rain, marching. And so I was giving everything I could in my being to give them what I had wanted my whole life. But the cost was that the joy that motherhood gives a woman and should give a woman, I did not have that. I had to focus. I had to run a household. So I look back at what motherhood has been. So many waves of motherhood, so many levels. The 16-year-old that was still in high school. I used to take my daughter to daycare on the school bus. And the way that worked was I had known the school bus driver my whole life because I grew up in a town with only like maybe 2,000 or 3,000 people. My mom was so mad when she found out I was pregnant. She took the car I had saved up for since I was like 13 or 14 and gave it to my brother, my older brother, who was leaving for college. So he left and went to college with the car I had saved up for and paid for. That was my punishment. So now I have a baby. I feel ostracized everywhere I go, but I still have to get her to daycare because I have to go back to high school. And the bus driver, I had known them my whole life. So I walked to the bus stop one day with my daughter in a car carrier. And I said, hey, the next stop is my grandmother's. Can my daughter get on the bus? Mind you, she's like 2 months old. I'm a teenager in high school. I'm in 11th grade. And the bus driver said, oh my God, yeah, just don't tell anybody, you're going to get me fired. And I would sit on the front seat of the bus with my daughter covered under a blanket. I would get on at my mother's house at my stop, and I would ride the bus to the next stop a few miles away at my grandmother's house. And I would jump off the bus, rain or shine, with my newborn daughter in a carrier, covered in a blanket, and run to my grandmother, who'd be standing there at the bus stop, and give my grandmother my daughter's diaper bag and run and get back on the bus and go to high school. And on the way home from school, that's exactly how I would pick her up, in reverse. I would ride a different bus and pick her up that went the opposite direction and went by my house next so that I could pick her up and then get home. And then I think about my son, who is now 9. And I remember crying profusely because this $9,000 stroller that I wanted for him was sold out, even though I had pre-ordered it when he was like, I was only 6 months pregnant with him. And I was devastated because I wasn't going to be able to get the stroller I wanted to match my Chanel diaper bag. And that making me so sad for the last month of my pregnancy before I just found something else. So the totality of what a woman is and what she can be and the things that concern us. I was a young mother, so fulfilled and so happy if I could even put formula in a bottle at night and still get to class and still prove people wrong and just give love to this tiny little being that I was so in love with. And then to be so empty and so tired because everything looks so perfect with my last newborn that I look back at videos and I see him and I see me and I almost don't remember it. I was there, but was I? So as I've explored through the last few years, what is happiness? What is peace? What is the difference between thriving versus surviving versus just this stasis, this just state of being? We're not happy, we're not sad, we're just breathing. I have really, really, really worked to know that to be present with my children is to first check in with myself. To be able to provide a childhood very different from the childhood I had is not just to provide material things and a calm environment, but it is for me, the human being, the mother, myself, to be present. Present in the sense that after the moment passes, I actually can recall it because I'm not in a frantic state where I'm more worried about, is their room perfectly clean? Is the dinner what I want them to be served. Is it macaroni versus asparagus versus hot dogs versus filet mignon? Where's the balance so that I'm actually present? I'm there. Present means I'm there. I'm not fighting this battle far off while my body stands in the kitchen serving dinner. And so motherhood has really taught me these incredible tiny little humans. They are, I'm not their gift. They're my gift. They are teaching me continually how to live better, how to be better, how to be a better human. And my biggest job is to continually check myself. And doing the best I can do is not attached in any way to things. It is not even attached to the smallest thing. So please don't lose the meaning of that statement. I lost the ability to get down in the floor with my children and play with them, where the only thing in my mind was them. I was so caught up in heartache of a divorce, or worried about if I had enough, or if I should give more to mothers I saw that had less to help them, that the little human beings that chose me didn't get every ounce of me. And make no mistake, that is the greatest sacrifice. The greatest sacrifice I have ever made in my life. And the greatest honor I will ever have is that I am those 5 children's mother. It is the most important thing I could ever do, even though some days I go, what else did you do with your time, Veronica, so far but be a mother? And I'm hard on myself, and I'm sad. But when I take a deep breath and I look at them in their eyes, it is nothing I could ever want or ever become or ever hope or ever dream that could be more than those 5 little souls that trusted me to be their mother. So every day that we start, every day that we are parents, not just mothers, it is such a sacred honor to carry that burden, to keep examining that burden, to keep exploring that burden, to keep going, I'm failing. Then to take joy and go, no, I'm doing it great. And then tomorrow you know for sure you're not doing it right. To be crushed by it. To feel it's too much. And the next day to get up and try again. Because it is the most complex, awe-inspiring, yet baffling thing that one could do is to be a parent. So as I continue over the next few episodes to explore parenthood, to explore the wonders of all of it, it is okay to be tired. In fact, you should be tired. I know you're tired. But isn't it a beautiful tired? Isn't it a beautiful, beautiful place? So find that little piece of broken glass of the beautiful part of parenthood, of motherhood. Hold on to that piece, and it might cut your hand. And each day, find yourself and make sure you're present. I want to thank my kids for choosing me to be their mommy. And I really look forward to unpacking in detail in the future the complexities of motherhood and my journey and my stories, being the mother of 5, whether I was dirt poor, very wealthy, and who I am now, just a little wiser and a little smarter, and making sure no matter what, I'm present. Thank you for listening to Stormy Stories. Have a good night.
I feel like Maddie has no filter. Like, he'll just walk up to some random kid in public and say, "Help me! I've been stranded here for years." Like when he went to Mulder's game that one time or his practice, we went under the bleachers and this little kid found us and he said, "Help! I've been stuck. I've been here for 12 years. I'm the last of my kind." And the kid believed him.